The lock clicked behind me for the 730th time. I know because I counted every single day, every single hour in that basement. 2 years. 730 days of concrete walls, dim lighting, and the sound of laughter echoing from above. His laughter, her laughter, his family's laughter. They thought they'd broken me. They thought I was just another foolish girl who'd fallen for a charming smile and expensive suits. But Matteo Donovan and his twisted family didn't know one thing. That empire they were building on my back, spending millions like it was pocket change, it was mine, every single piece of it, and today their entire world was about to crumble into dust. Before I take you through this nightmare and show you how I burned their kingdom to the ground, let me ask you something. Have you ever been underestimated? Trapped? Made to feel invisible? Then you need to hear this story. This is Sophia, and I'm about to show you that patience isn't weakness. It's the sharpest weapon you can carry. Stay with me until the end, because when I finally made my move, even I was shocked by how completely they fell. Let me take you back 3 years. I was 28 and on top of the world. I'd built next-gen analytics from absolutely nothing. Just me, my laptop, and an idea that revolutionized how companies handled data security. $50 million. That's what my baby was worth, and I'd earned every penny through sleepless nights and endless work. My parents, Frank and Linda, were so proud they cried. They'd worked blue-collar jobs their entire lives to put me through college, and seeing their daughter succeed like this, it meant everything to them. Then I met Matteo at a tech conference in Manhattan. Tall, confident, with this smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. He wasn't like the tech guys I usually met. He had this old money charm, talked about art and travel, made me laugh. For the first time in years, I felt like something other than a CEO. I felt like a woman who deserved to be romanced. God, I was such a fool. My parents met him 3 months into our relationship. My dad pulled me aside that night and said something I'll never forget. "Sweetheart, that family has a reputation. The Donovans don't build. They take." I laughed it off. I thought he was being overprotective. I thought Matteo was different from his family. I was wrong about everything. Meeting the Donovans was like walking into a snake pit. Margaret, his mother, looked at me like I was dirt on her expensive carpet. She was all sharp edges and cold smiles, the kind of woman who could destroy you with a perfectly placed comment at a dinner party. Harold, Matteo's father, only seemed interested when the conversation turned to my company. His eyes would light up talking about valuations and market shares, but when I talked about the actual work, the innovation, nothing. Matteo's sister, Cassandra, was perhaps the worst. Beautiful and venomous, she whispered to me at my own wedding. "You'll never truly be a Donovan, darling. You don't have the breeding for it." I should have run. I should have listened to every single warning sign clanging in my head like alarm bells. But I was in love. Or at least I thought I was. Love makes you blind, and I was stumbling around in complete darkness. The first 6 months of marriage were a slow-motion nightmare. Matteo changed. The charm evaporated like morning fog, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. He started questioning my decisions at work, suggesting I was too emotional to run a company. He introduced me to Jessica, his business partner. I'm not stupid. I saw the way they looked at each other, the touches that lasted too long, the inside jokes I wasn't part of. When I confronted him, he laughed. Actually laughed in my face and told me I was paranoid. But I wasn't paranoid. I was right. I found the emails, the hotel receipts, the texts that made my stomach turn. Jessica wasn't just his mistress. She'd been in his life long before I came along. I was the interruption in their love story, except their love story was really about my money. The night I told Matteo I wanted a divorce was the night my life ended. Well, my old life anyway. We were in the living room of that massive Donovan estate, all marble and artwork and cold, cold luxury. I told him I was done, that I was taking my company and leaving. He just smiled. That should have terrified me, but I was too angry to notice. "You're not going anywhere, Sophia," he said quietly. Then he handed me a glass of wine. I drank it. Why wouldn't I? He was my husband. I trusted him with my life. I woke up in the basement, and Margaret Donovan was standing over me. Her perfectly styled hair, her designer dress, her complete lack of humanity. "You're not going anywhere, dear," she said, like she was discussing the weather. My hands were chained to a pipe. I screamed until my throat bled, but the walls were soundproof. They'd planned this, all of them. The next 2 years were a masterclass in psychological torture. They kept me in that basement, gave me minimal food, one thin blanket, and a bucket. Margaret visited weekly with the same speech. "Sign over the company, and this ends." Harold would come down with his reasonable voice like we were negotiating a business deal. "Be smart, Sophia. Just sign. We'll let you go, and you can start over somewhere else." Cassandra brought Jessica down sometimes, and they'd stand there laughing at me. Jessica wore my clothes, my jewelry, my grandmother's necklace. "Mateo never loved you," she'd say. "You were just a bank account with a pretty face." But I never signed. Not once. Because they didn't know about the biometric verification I'd built into my company's ownership structure. Without my fingerprint and retinal scan, any signature was worthless. They could forge my name all day long. It meant nothing. Meanwhile, above my head, they were living their best life on my money. I could hear them through the ceiling. Parties, celebrations, conversations. Mateo announced to his friends that he was running next-gen analytics. Margaret won some humanitarian award. Cassandra bought 3 luxury cars with company cards. They spent $15 million of my money in 18 months. They thought they were untouchable. My parents didn't stop looking for me, not for a single day. They came to the Donovan house 2 weeks after I disappeared. I heard their voices upstairs, and I screamed and pounded on the walls until my hands bled, but no one heard. The soundproofing was too good. Mateo told them I was in Singapore expanding the business. Margaret backed him up with fake sympathy. "She's so busy, barely calls us either. You know how ambitious she is." They showed my parents fake emails from me because Mateo had hacked all my accounts. My dad didn't believe them. My mom told me later that she cried every night because she knew in her bones something was wrong. They hired a private investigator, but the Donovans had connections everywhere. Police dismissed their concerns. "Your daughter is an adult," they said. "She has every right to travel for work." My parents were helpless, and that broke my heart more than anything the Donovans did to me. But my parents weren't my only hope. Grace, my business partner and closest friend, knew something was wrong. She noticed that Sophia attending board meetings via video looked slightly off. She noticed financial transfers that made no sense. Grace was brilliant. She'd helped me build NextGen from nothing, and she knew how I thought, how I operated. These decisions weren't mine. In month 14, something happened that changed everything. Cassandra got drunk at one of their parties and left her phone in the basement by accident. I had maybe 3 minutes before the battery died. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type, but I managed to send one encrypted email to Grace, just 5 words. "Prisoner, Donovan House, basement, alive, start Plan Phoenix." Plan Phoenix was something Grace and I had created years ago, an emergency protocol in case either of us was ever in danger. It included access codes, legal contacts, and a network of people we trusted. Grace understood immediately. She didn't go to the police because she knew the Donovans owned them. Instead, she did something smarter. She started gathering evidence. For the next 8 months, Grace worked with my parents in complete secrecy. They documented every suspicious financial transaction. Mateo had taken $15 million from the company through fake contracts. Jessica had a consulting firm that existed only on paper, $3 million gone. Margaret and Harold used company credit cards like personal ATMs, $2 million in luxury purchases. Cassandra had charged $800,000 in designer clothes and jewelry. They were bleeding my company dry, and they were stupid enough to leave a paper trail. But evidence of financial fraud wasn't enough. They needed proof that I was being held prisoner, and that was nearly impossible to get, until the Donovans' own arrogance handed it to them. Month 22. The Donovans decided to throw a massive charity gala. Mateo was going to announce a $5 million donation from NextGen Analytics to various causes. Margaret was receiving some ridiculous humanitarian award. They invited everyone who mattered. Politicians, business leaders, media. It was going to be their coronation as the city's most philanthropic family, and they decided to bring me. Their plan was simple: drug me heavily, put me in a wheelchair, tell everyone I was ill but brave enough to support the family. They'd parade me around like a trophy, proof that everything was fine. Margaret even picked out my dress, pale yellow like a corpse. They wanted me to look sick but present, the perfect silent wife. What they didn't know was that Grace had hacked into their security system weeks earlier. She had footage of everything: me in chains, Margaret's threats, their family meetings where they planned my continued imprisonment. She'd also contacted the FBI because this wasn't just a local crime anymore. This was kidnapping, fraud, and conspiracy on a massive scale. The night of the gala, they brought me upstairs for the first time in months. The lights hurt my eyes. The dress hung off my body because I'd lost 30 pounds. They shot me full of sedatives, but I'd built up a tolerance after 2 years of their drugs. I was more alert than they realized. I just kept my eyes half closed and my body limp. Let them think they'd won. The ballroom was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, designer gowns everywhere. I was positioned in my wheelchair near the stage, a tragic figure in the background. Margaret worked the room like the queen she thought she was. Mateo had his arm around Jessica, who wore my grandmother's necklace like she'd earned it. Cassandra held court with a group of socialites, probably talking about her latest shopping trip funded by my money. Then my parents arrived. They weren't invited, but they pushed past security because they knew this might be their only chance. My mom saw me and screamed, just screamed my name and ran toward me. "Baby, what did they do to you?" Margaret intercepted her, all fake concern. "She's just tired from her treatments, Linda. Please don't upset her." My dad was right behind her, and I saw his face crumple when he saw me. "What treatments?" he demanded. "Where has she been?" Harold stepped in with his calm, lying voice. "Singapore General Hospital. Very exclusive care. We've been taking wonderful care of your daughter." My mom was crying, touching my face. "You're lying. Look at her eyes. She's been drugged. This isn't illness, this is—" Mateo signaled security to remove them. That's when something inside me snapped. I grabbed the microphone from the podium with strength I didn't know I still had. My voice came out raspy and broken, but it carried through the entire ballroom. "I am a prisoner." The room went absolutely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Margaret lunged for me, her mask finally slipping. "She's delusional. The illness affects her mind." But I was standing now, the wheelchair kicked aside. "I've been in their basement for 22 months. They kidnapped me. They stole my company. They've been drugging me and torturing me while spending millions of my money." That's when Grace made her move. She rushed onto the stage with her laptop and connected it to the projection system. Suddenly, every screen in that ballroom showed the footage. Me in chains. Me being threatened. Me sobbing in the darkness. Audio played of Margaret saying, "Break her or we lose everything." Harold discussing my company's value like it was already theirs. Cassandra laughing about keeping me quiet. Mateo telling Jessica, "Once we have it all, we'll finish this." The FBI stormed in within seconds. They'd been waiting outside for the signal. Mateo tried to run and got tackled by 3 agents. Margaret was screaming about lawyers and connections and how they couldn't possibly arrest a Donovan. Harold went silent, just staring at the floor like he could disappear if he stayed still enough. Cassandra pointed at Mateo. "It was all his idea. I just went along with it. I'm a victim too." Jessica made it to the door before they caught her. I stood on that stage, watching them all being handcuffed, and I felt nothing. No triumph, no relief, just a vast emptiness. Then my mom reached me, and my dad wrapped his arms around both of us, and I collapsed. I just completely fell apart. My dad kept saying, "You're safe now, baby. You're safe." My mom was crying so hard she couldn't speak. We stayed like that for a long time while the FBI processed the scene and the media captured everything. The trial was 3 months later. I had to testify, had to relive every moment of those 2 years, but I had evidence they couldn't fight. 22 months of recordings I'd made on a device hidden in my clothes, something Grace had managed to smuggle to me through a crack in the basement window during month 18. Every threat, every assault, every conversation where they planned my destruction. It was all documented. Mateo got 25 years, Margaret got 20, Harold got 18, Cassandra got 15, Jessica got 12. The judge said they were a conspiracy of cruelty and that their complete lack of remorse warranted maximum sentences. Margaret actually laughed in court when the sentence was read. She still thought the Donovan name would save her somehow. It didn't. They seized everything. The mansion, the cars, the artwork, every single asset. It all went to repaying what they'd stolen from me and covering damages. The Donovan empire that had stood for 3 generations was completely destroyed in one afternoon. That was 3 months ago. Today, I'm standing in my office at Next Gen Analytics, looking out over the city. My company isn't just surviving, it's thriving. We're worth $120 million now. I'm on the cover of 3 business magazines with headlines like "The Phoenix Who Rose from Hell" and "Tech CEO Reclaims Empire from Captors." But that's not what I'm most proud of. I took the Donovan Mansion, the place where I suffered for 2 years, and I turned it into a women's shelter. The basement where they kept me? It's now a memorial room with the stories of other survivors. Every woman who walks through those doors knows that survival is possible, freedom is possible, justice is possible. I started the Phoenix Foundation with $20 million of my own money. We help people who are trapped, imprisoned, abused. We have lawyers, investigators, safe houses, and a network of people who understand that sometimes the system fails and you need someone to fight for you. We've helped 300 women escape dangerous situations in 3 months. My parents? They're at my apartment every Sunday for dinner. My mom cooks, my dad tells terrible jokes, and we're rebuilding the time we lost. Grace is now my co-CEO because I learned something important. You can't do everything alone. You need people you trust, people who will fight for you when you can't fight for yourself. Sometimes people ask me how I survived, how I didn't break. The truth? I almost did. There were nights I wanted to sign their papers just to make it stop. Nights I thought about giving up entirely, but then I'd remember something my dad told me when I was starting my business. "Sophia," he said, "success isn't about never falling. It's about making sure when you get back up, you're stronger than whatever knocked you down." The Donovans thought breaking me would give them power. They didn't realize that every day I survived, I grew stronger. Every time they hurt me, I memorized their patterns. Every time they celebrated above my head, I planned my next move. They saw a victim. I was becoming a weapon. They lost everything, their name, their wealth, their freedom, their future. And me? I didn't just survive. I conquered. I took everything they tried to steal and built it into something they could never touch again. The Donovan name is now synonymous with cruelty and fraud. My name is synonymous with resilience and justice. So if you're in a dark place right now, if someone has you trapped and you think there's no way out, remember this: your enemies often trap themselves. You just have to be patient enough, smart enough, and strong enough to watch them do it. Document everything. Trust the right people. And when the moment comes, strike with everything you have. That's my story. 22 months of hell, but I emerged with everything I deserved and watched them lose everything they stole. If this moved you, if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. Let them know that silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. And sometimes the best revenge isn't just winning. It's watching them destroy themselves while you wait for the perfect moment to take back what was always yours. This is Sophia, and I'm living proof that the phoenix always rises from the ashes. The only question is, what will you do with your second chance when it comes?